Hi, and welcome to the class. I thought today I'm going to do a yin class very much based upon the pelvis. So there will be some hip openers, there will be some elements of meditation, a lot of breathing towards it and paying that attentive attention to the sensations and the process of getting to know our hips, getting to know our pelvis. For today's session, it will be useful if you have a pillow, a blanket, belt, strap, etc. And I don't know exactly why, but I have this kind of wheat pillow. I shall see if I use it. It's very good for a shapeshifter, so we'll see. I thought we'll start with a little bit of awareness. And today, as always, I think it's a useful thing to land in our breathing, but then I'm going to direct your attention down to feel the sensations in your pelvis, in your lower abdomen, but also in your lower back. So in order for this to not be too painful, we try to find that very comfortable seat, lifting ourselves up a little higher perhaps with the help of a pillow or a blanket. Finding that comfortable seat, especially today, since we are going to work very much with this area. You want to feel it dropping heavily down, feeling very comfortable, almost like a barrel on the ground. You want to feel your pubic bone dropping towards the ground, your tailbone dropping towards the ground, and those two sit bones landing. Preferably with balanced sense of placement. Then from this base of the torso, we allow the spine to lengthen, we close our eyes, and we land in our attention training. Take the first couple of moments and just settle within the stillness. To help that settling process, it's useful to address any sort of tension you have in your face or in your shoulders, in the abdomen, around the diaphragm. Draw mind to your breath for a little bit. Allow the breath to be a calming anchor. As I think I mentioned before, the reason why the breath is such a useful place, waiting for the bus. The reason why the breath is such a useful place to hook your attention to lead your awareness training towards, is because it provides continuous movement. And mind is very accustomed to movement, the movement of life, the movement of your thoughts, the movement of the feelings in the body, and not to speak of the exterior movement that we encounter daily. So to kind of draw it into that more narrow, sharp awareness, it's useful to land in the gentle movement of the breath. Then we draw our attention a little further south. We draw it down to the pelvis. Pelvis generally constituting of hip bones and sacrum, the pubic bone, house of the organs of elimination, the organs of reproduction. Place your mind there. Draw your attention to your pelvis. Feel it. In the beginning, this may feel a little strange. Maybe you don't feel much. we are not very used to landing with our attention down here unless we practice meditation and yoga a lot, of course. It's a bit of a gray area. It's associated with a lot of shame. It's the first area we are taught to cover up in our bodies. So maybe that has some sort of psychological impact. I keep drawing your attention there. Investigate it. If it feels easier, you can move systematically. Maybe do the front first. Feel the back, the sacrum area. And feel your hips, one at a time. Feel the groin, your genitalia, your anus. Now, very often I find yoga students and myself very much so, that there's a bit of unevenness in the hips, in how we walk and how we sit. We have one hip that is stronger, a little stiffer, one that is more loose, one kind of working leg and one sort of supporting leg. So the feeling is generally one of asymmetry. Now, in my experience, that asymmetry, especially if you do a lot of sports or if you do a lot of yoga, that very often results in a wrapping of muscles that create a sort of corruption in the alignment of the spine, especially as it pertains to the lower back. So to find equilibrium, a sort of balance in the pelvis, is very important. I have struggled with it for many years now, and I'm still not there, still very unbalanced. But the only way that I have found to work with it is to really pay it attention and get to know it from a feeling perspective. After a while, maybe you can feel your sit bones. Feeling if one has more ease sinking down, one has a tendency to pull up. If there's tension associated with that sit bone, with that hip. Hey, Mings. You will feel that one hip is definitely more generous than the other. Most cases are like that. Now remember, you want to get to know your pelvis, you want to investigate it with a very non-judgmental mind, a very equanimous mind. You can think of it almost as a mechanic that goes in under the hood of the car and looks at, I don't know what the mechanics do, but they look at the engine and the things, and if they find some little fault, some screw that has gotten loose, well, it doesn't help to judge the screw or to judge the car or even the owner. You just go in and fix it. Now, it's not exactly that simple with our hips, with our pelvis, with our alignment, years of history, of habit there. But you do have to know it, feel it. Knowing it theoretically will place it on an intellectual level for you. You want to know it experientially because that is where you live, from the feeling perspective. Good. All right. Now we're going to take a couple of very soft yin poses that all address this area. And we're going to start by laying down. We will lay down and now take our pillow or a blanket or maybe a pillow and a blanket. And we place this right below our sacrum in the back of the hips. Like so. So when we lay down, we have a slight rising of the hips. Now, if this feels in any way violent for your lower back, then maybe start here with your feet on the ground, allowing the femurs to glide gently into the hip, allowing the hip joint, the psoas, to relax. But if you're feeling no issues in your lower back, then straighten out and allow the area to relax. Keep paying attention. The shift of posture will allow for new sensations. It will highlight the front a bit more. You will have a sense of opening up, splaying out, that may or may not be comfortable. Investigate how it feels in the back of the pelvis, your sacrum. Now, for some of us, this more meditative way of practicing, of paying attention to the area, it can get quite tricky. It's hard to sustain awareness for a longer period of time. So if you need to, if you want to, if it feels useful for you, then cultivate simultaneously a breath that feels supportive for mind, feels calming for mind. Maybe even use that breath like we do in our other restorative sessions to really draw energy down to the place, to feel like you're affecting it with that wave of movement that comes from your breath, moves through the diaphragm, pushes through your intestines, and feels like it lands on the pelvic floor. I can feel quite comfortable, as you know. But I would say the main work is still with mind. As the body relaxes more and more, which it wants to do, which you want to do, uh, more details of your particular alignment come in focus. When I relax my hips, I can feel in this position how the left hip is sinking a little lower, how the right one has a slight tightening around the right side of the pubis. All the injuries in the hip, patterns of walking, sitting, standing, driving. Now, I don't try to rectify in this particular practice. Some of you may feel the urge to do so. Go ahead. But work in a very energy efficient manner so we don't muscle up. Maybe just allow the bones to move slightly, as though you pull one bone a little deeper down, press one sit bone a little closer down to the pillow. But subtle movements, very small adjustments. And then relax again. For some of us, being splayed out like this, exposing the whole pelvis, opening the genitalia, feeling a sense of fragility as the pelvic floor is more exposed. For some of us, it has psychological connotations, and that breath will come in hand. Calming mind, calming any tendency of reactivity. Should something more psychological or emotional arise to the surface, try not to get too engaged with the storyline of associated with that feeling. See if you can let mind stay very close to the actual present experience. Those feelings, they have a mirror place in the body, usually somewhere around the diaphragm, your solar plexus. Maybe you feel it in the heart. Maybe you feel it down here in the pelvis, the throat. Pay those sensations that are more psychological of nature equal attention. Maybe send them a couple of warming, calming breaths. See if you can relax. And from here, let's bend our knees. Use that added height below our body to just let the knees fall down towards the chest or out towards your armpits. Keep relaxing the pelvis in this position, because now you are flexing your hips. You'll find that somehow the discrepancy, the imbalance in the hips may be a bit grander, maybe more pronounced. If you want to rectify slightly, well, then just work by moving ever so slightly. Maybe moving one sit bone a little further down, as though you had ground below your sit bones. Maybe allowing one side of the pelvis in the back sinking a little deeper. Very subtle movements, always with awareness, attention as the foundation. Then let's turn this whole thing around. We're going to keep that same height below our bum, but now we instead park the front of the hips on it. Find a comfortable position for your neck, for your shoulders. Feel your pelvis rising up, now providing a sense of opening, expansion of your sacrum, allowing the hip bones to kind of sink down and in towards each other in the front. Keep mind present. Investigate. In this particular position, I tell you, breathing a little deeper and almost feeling that breath spread like butter around your sacrum feels fantastic. So, for a little treat. Notice if you carry any tension in your psoas. See if you can allow or imagine the sensation of the femur bones really dropping into the hip joint. This will really relax the psoas. Add another element of that softening, that relaxation, just provided by a slight alignment adjustment. very often the sensations, the connotation of the sensations in our pelvis are kind of associated with extremes. Going to the toilet, holding back going to the toilet, having an orgasm, not having an orgasm, feeling sexual desire, shame, big stuff. Otherwise, maybe you have like me, I had a cesarean, that also impacts, so scar tissue, both psychological and physical. Very often that is how many of us get in touch with the hips, with the pelvis, giving birth. I would say it's useful to cultivate a relationship with that area on a more mundane daily basis. That you feel, you learn how to feel your hips as you're walking through life, just normally. Besides normalizing the area from a psychological viewpoint, that is also very useful as it will address certain ways that you have cultivated habits that bring you to an uneven placement of the pelvis. Phew, it's a long sentence. So to pay attention to this central part that connects the lower part and the upper part is very useful, very, very useful. And from here, let's take it to a child's pose. Come off of your bolster-like situation, and let's come to a more wide-kneed child's pose. So keep some distance between your knees, like so. Let your belly just drop down in between your inner thighs. Maybe now that pillow and the blanket or the blanket can serve as a comfortable place for your forehead to rest upon. If you have lower back issues or if your hips are going through something, then this position of opening the knees slightly and just dropping the weight down, it may feel quite painful, triggering those tissues where the weakness or stiffness or tension is. But it also shows you very much, because there's so much weight coming down, it also shows you very much, very clearly where in the general region of the pelvis you need to pay more attention. You have something that you can work with in your yoga practice, in your daily activities, and how you sit, and how you stand, and how you walk. All very useful information. You'll find if there's a tightening in one hip, it kind of pulls the pelvis in different ways. And that pulling of the pelvis can very well be the kind of start of your kind of slight lower back pain, the ache in the lower back, or the ache in the sacrum that some people have. it's very painful, or if it's falling asleep, then use your breathing. Take one of those big breaths, one of those sweeping breaths. Aim it for the for the hips, for the pelvis, for your sacrum, wherever you want it, need it. And that usually helps, of course, the situation to feel a little kinder if it hurts a lot. Slowly come out. And then let's go for a good old Baddha Konasana. Maybe today, if you have a wall, maybe give that a try. For those of you that feel whatever Baddha Konasana or this butterfly posture comes up in yoga context, you feel like, oh, I hate that posture. For you guys, it's very useful to have a wall or something to lean upon. It helps the relaxation here in the hip. And then, of course, if you also have a little throne to sit on, helps even more. Let's try that. And before we go forward, before we lean into the posture, just stay upright with wall or without wall. Don't do anything, just close your eyes and once again, naturally let the weight of your legs drop, the weight of your pelvis drop, and notice. Is there any sit bone that goes a little deeper, that sinks a little lower? Any asymmetry in the rotation in your hips? Anything that feels cramped down there? Are you holding? What kind of sensations are you experiencing? Try to keep that mind steady, placed. And then very slowly, with mind in that same precise placement in the pelvis, around your sit bones, pubic bone, hip bones, pelvic floor, start leaning slightly forward. Make it very slow so you really feel the mechanics, how that resonates, how that feels in your body when you lean forward. What parts are affected? You will feel maybe your inner thigh, feel a slight tilt perhaps, or perhaps you are one of those people that feel it more in the sacrum, in the lower back. If that is the case, if it feels more like a curve of the lower vertebrae, then come back up and stay for a little bit just sitting. When you lean forward, you want that lean to happen from the hip joint. So it's kind of like you're tipping the upper body forward, hinging from the hip. Continue in this very slow manner to go a little deeper within the posture. And without any judgment whatsoever, whenever you notice an interesting new sensation pop up, creep up, slowly grow inside, stop, investigate, maybe apply breath. Take your time. For those of you that want to go a little deeper, do so, but take it very slowly, in slow motion, so you can really feel what is happening in your pelvis. How is it relating to the deepening of the posture? What elements, what qualities come into play? Is there any resistance? As you relax more and more into the posture, see which tendencies come up. For me, when I really relax into the posture, because I've done it for so many years and I fall a little further down now, I can really feel how one sit bone sort of lifts up a little bit. And I just work slightly and giving it more weight. Find that balance. I retract slightly from the posture so that the placement of my pelvis is instrumental for how I relax into the position. From here, slowly withdraw, retract, come up. Then we lay back down on the ground. Take a little soft transition, bringing the knees together, allowing the legs to become parallel. Allow the lower back to sink slightly so you can really relax the whole package of the pelvis down towards the ground. Keep noticing the shift in sensation, the echo, the reverb. Maybe breathe a little deeper with more precision, more intention to the areas that are aching. And then from here we lay down. You can do either the good old favorite of mine, or one of them, which is placing the feet in the strap, reaching your legs up towards the ceiling with the intention of creating a kind of 90-degree angle between your femur bone and your hip joint. Yeah? So you feel like when the legs relax into the posture, it can be with a bit of bent knees if it feels too tight for the hamstrings. The feeling is that the psoas relaxes completely due to that sinking down of the femur bone into the hip. Place your hands in such a way that you can relax your arms. You don't pull with the arms. And then feel the pelvis, the back of it, spread on the floor. Allow the head, the weight of your skull to sink. The back of the shoulders spread out. The front of the shoulders soften, just like the back of the pelvis spreads out. The front of the hips, the front of the pelvis relaxes. Notice what that feels like. Steady mind. Notice how the relaxation of the pelvis influences the spine, what influences even, at least for me, the movement of my belly. Starts to relax, it starts to move inside, it's soft, very comfortable. Couple that up with the diaphragm's relaxation and a few bigger breaths, really like a massage for the hips, a massage for the pelvis. Then we relax our legs, strap, let it on the floor, and we're going to open to our butterfly here. Some of you may also want to ball up a little pillow or a bolster below your shoulders if that feels good. And some people like that, but remember we are focusing primarily on the pelvis and this area today. Maybe even place your hands here, why not? Another one of these very exposed positions. Feel the tug of the inner thigh, you feel the pubic bone in the front. I feel like one of my butt cheeks is a little stronger than the other one kind of sinks down and floats out. Remember, whatever your investigation, whatever information you get from it, try not to get too judgy or too self-pity, or try to find why, where, what happened. Just notice it. This is what is the reality right now. This is what it feels like. Useful information for you to work with. And with that same methodical, unemotional approach like the mechanic has with the car. Car doesn't take so long maybe to repair. Well, mine has, but most cars, it takes a visit to the mechanic. With the hip body, it's a little different. It takes a bit of time. So we cultivate patience at the same time. But I like this way of working with the practice where the information about my body, the information about the alignment and the sensations in the body, they are my compass in my practice. the more awareness I gain in how the different parts of my body feel and how they respond to small adjustments, the more independent I grow in my practice. Now, if you haven't done yoga for a long time, or if you don't spend as many hours as some of us do on the mat or in savasana or on the pillow, then maybe you need a teacher, one that in person can actually go and physically adjust you or direct you according to your circumstance. But that still does not erase the necessity for you cultivating your own innate intelligence, awareness, feeling intelligence as to how your body is, how it's doing, how life has given it little scars, habits. And like I've said in previous sessions, should there be a deep psychological mark there, something very traumatic, something very difficult, then use your breathing. Then use the breath as a diplomat, as you're negotiating your relationship with that conflictive area. Try to install in this vehicle, in your breath, that sense of steady, calm communication. Remember that however deep the pain is, it's your pain and it's yours to reconcile with. So kind intention, caring intention. Okay. Now very slowly bring your knees back up. Stay for a little bit in this posture. Parallel legs. Relax your pelvis, your skull, your upper back. Then finally we extend our legs out into our beloved Savasana. Now that we're not putting a lot of obstacles to our pelvis, to our hips, no funky rotations, no flexibility training, relax it and pay attention. Mind breath, maybe accompanied by breath, moving down to the pelvis. And just like we did when we were sitting in the beginning, we want to investigate, we want to connect with, we want to relate to every little corner of that pelvic bone. Hips, the hip flexor, the psoas, hip bones, the pubic bone in the front, the sacrum at the back, organs of elimination and reproduction on the inside, your sex, your genitals, anus. And when we investigate, when we draw attention to, in this case our pelvis, in this very detailed manner, we're not really looking for a conclusion. Okay? It's very important. We're not looking for a conclusion, an answer, a solution. We're looking to establish a relationship by continuously connecting mind and body, continuously recognizing that element of feeling instead of thinking about how you're feeling or thinking about how that feeling sits with you. And that awareness training, when it comes to the body, it will give you little tips, little snippets of information that maybe don't feel relevant today, maybe don't feel relevant in a year. But if you keep at it, you will find that there's very subtle ways that you can address and align your body, that you can breathe into and release some deeply held tension. And that starts by you being there, being here. The act of relaxation, this yin activity that we've done today, it serves to really open the area, offering it up for your awareness, for your attention. Okay, I will leave you here in this wonderful savasana. I hope you can stay a little longer. Keep investigating your pelvis, keep feeling it, keep relaxing it. And my next session, which will be on Thursday this week, it will be more of the yang approach. Not that we're going to go crazy with Mula Bandha, although it will be part of it. So if you haven't already, then look at the Mula Bandha video. So you have a more, at least a basic grasp of what that is. We'll address that in the yang session. We'll work with more muscular placement, muscular attention, and yeah, same but different. Like